So now we're going to look at that same flying knee cut. My partner's going to turn up, okay, on their shoulder. And instead of going for the top spin, you may have noticed, because we already have such a nice positioning here with my underhook, this sort of shadow swan, kind of looks like any bird of choice, okay, whatever bird you like. Hooking here, heavy on his shoulder. Because I already have this grip here, his arm is exposed, right? So as I start to turn here and Gabriel comes up to his knees, if I'm able to maintain this underhook, this swan grip here on his shoulder, I can now switch to the other side. If he hasn't fully, built up to his elbow here, right, this is a different situation. If he's still on his shoulder twisting his hips, I can now, instead of going to the back take, which I would say is more safe, okay, I can also top spin on this arm, okay? So I'm going to step over his head, and the same thing, I'm doing that same movement as we would for the back take, only I'm going to maintain this arm, and I'm going to keep my chest connected to his tricep. So as I step over here, I switch my knee. I'm going to aim my knee into his armpit here. I'm not going to bring my leg all the way to the other side because I need to break him down off of his knees first. So as I twist here, I'm going to bring my leg over his head, and look, instead of going to this side, and right now his body's twisted, I'm going to keep my knee pinching in nice and tight here. Currently, we're elbow to elbow. I'm going to stretch him away, staying nice and close at my chest, because if there's distance here, now if he curls his arm in, it becomes strength of arm versus strength of arm. So I connect my whole body behind his arm, and now as I climb up to the wrist joint, my whole body is what's pulling his arm back. So now we're disconnected, he's pulling back, bicep curling. He's going to have a stronger bicep curl. He can keep his arm safe. But when I connect my chest to his tricep and my whole body is behind his arm, now I can peel it back. And oftentimes my partner will flip their hips down and we can finish here. If he stays twisted away, you can see that I still have his arm controlled here. My knees are pinching nice and tight. And if you're ever struggling, if your partner's flexible with the hand turning and you're not able to get the bite on the elbow, control at the wrist, twist it so the thumb is facing the ceiling, and now you can hip through. If they're so flexible that it feels gummy here, if that makes sense, so if I feel like here there's not enough pressure, twist the thumb outwards slightly and use the pressure against your leg rather than your hips, right? So now I can use something that's like a harder force against his elbow and drive it in this direction. So usually when they're gummy here, there'll be a little bit more tightness, and you're going to find the tightness. So twist the thumb, find the tightness, and then press it against either one of your legs in whichever direction. Gabrielle is not physically flexible, neither am I, so I can bring my thumb to the ceiling and then hip through his elbow here, okay? But just in case the arm is soft here, you can twist the thumb and then drive it against something in the opposite direction. So one more time. We're here, we shot through on our knee cut, we pull this arm straight away because I know he's going to start to twist here, and now from here, I'm going to top spin, pinch, and straight away, I'm connecting my whole body behind the arm to unravel it, and I can get my finish. So one thing I wanted to touch on before we move on to the next technique is, you can see here in this instance, Gabriel is kind of inverting before going to his knees. So he's coming up on his shoulder, not up on his elbow. And I wanted this to explain this because not everyone will do this reaction. Sometimes people will build up to their elbow. And again, how many times have I said this? Particularly when they are stronger, they're going to build up onto their elbow. Usually, and I don't want to gender this, but from my experience, girls will invert, okay, or smaller grapplers, which tends more to be the girls, right, will invert and use the flexibility of their hips, and guys will build up onto the upper body. I'm not saying either is bad or wrong, just that tends to happen. So if you are a girl rolling with mostly guys, you'll probably face this reaction where Gabriel builds up onto his elbow. Now, the reason I prefer to go against this reaction is because it goes back to having my chest below his shoulder. If my chest is below his shoulder, I can drive him flat much easier because I can achieve getting chest to chest. So all I need to do is when he turns up on his elbow, okay, I'm keeping my foot hooked here so he can't retract that leg to get to his knees. If he now gets to his knees, okay, whole other story. We'd have to switch to like a front headlock or try and top spin to the back, bail out of the situation. But if I can keep his foot hooked when he builds up like this, now I can start to knock his post out. So all I need to do, get my chest lower, because if I try and do this with my chest higher, hard to reach, hard to pull if you can keep weight in it. But if I go lower with my chest, now I can just literally tackle him and drive him flat. The whole body weight goes through and I knock him onto his back. If you're struggling to reach with a traditional scoop, you can also weave your hand through here. So if this isn't working, and you feel like his elbow's too wide to knock, there's too much weight in it, weave, same thing. And now you can knock him back flat and just achieve side control. So just to bear in mind, that is still an option if your chest can get lower and they build up onto that elbow.